On the night of September 14th, 1824, the bell of St. Hartwell Parish rang 13 times. It was never supposed to ring more than 12. When the villagers gathered, they found no priest in the tower. Only a single iron chain, twisted, bent, and dripping with something that wasn't rain. The story that followed would vanish from every Kentucky archive, every record burned, every grave unmarked, but one document survived, buried inside a locked chest found beneath the church floor in 1947. It tells of a woman, a slave named Althea, 7 feet tall, shackled since birth, a woman so strong that 6 men were ordered to keep her chained, a woman who one night made the chains sing louder than the church bells. This is her story, and the secret she carried, the one the church tried to bury, was never about strength. It was about what she became. Hartwell County was once called the Garden of the South, a stretch of land so rich, the soil itself stained your hands red. But beneath the plantations ran tunnels. Old limestone mines turned into holding pits where voices echoed long after their owners were sold away. St. Hartwell Parish was built directly above one of those pits. A gift, the overseer said, from the God-fearing men who own the land. Inside the church records, the ones that remain, we find a single entry for property #7F. No surname, no birthplace, only a height 7 feet 1 inch. And a note scribbled by the Reverend, subject prone to episodes of silence followed by uncontrolled rage, keep sedated, keep chained. Locals whispered that she wasn't born here, that she was brought from a ship run aground near New Orleans where no one spoke her language, and where her eyes reflected torchlight like an animal's. Every Sunday, they marched her from the cellar to ring the church bell. 7 pulls, 7 chimes, each echo said to drive away the devil inside her. But on the 13th ring, something else answered. In 1831, a missionary named Caleb Renshaw came to Hartwell to restore order. His private journal, never meant to be read, details the punishments inflicted on Althea. 6 men required, he wrote, each chain anchored to the stone floor. Yet she watches us, not pleading, not weeping, but smiling, as though she already knows our fate. The chains themselves were custom, forged in Lexington, 3 inches thick, 400 pounds total. They were blessed with holy oil, but blacksmiths swore that when heated they screamed like living things. Villagers claimed Althea could hear thoughts, that she'd hum the hymns the priests whispered under their breath before they spoke a single word aloud. Renshaw tried to baptize her, but when he placed water on her head, the candles went out, and when light returned, the water had turned to blood. He recorded her final words before the church sealed her below. You chained the wrong thing, preacher, I was keeping it in. The storm came without warning, wind tore through the cornfields, animals screamed. Witnesses said they saw the church light up as if on fire, but no smoke followed. The Reverend and his men went inside, 6 of them, only 1 came back, and his tongue was missing. The bell rang 13 times that night. Neighbors heard it from miles away, but the sound was wrong, slow, heavy, as though something enormous pulled at the rope with hands that shouldn't have existed. At dawn, the church doors stood open. Inside, the pews were overturned. Chains hung from the rafters, bent, melted, and wrapped in what looked like hair. Beneath the altar, someone had carved a single sentence into the wood. The 13th will always return. The parish was abandoned within a week. But the bodies weren't buried. They were sealed beneath the floor, together. Nearly 80 years later, in 1903, Hartwell Parish was converted into an orphanage, run by the Sisters of Mercy, who claimed they were called there by divine guidance. But their ledgers tell a different story. 31 orphans admitted that year, only 26 names recorded by spring. In the margins, the Mother Superior wrote a phrase repeated across multiple pages. The girl in the cellar sings again. Children began drawing tall figures on the walls, arms stretching too long, heads bent beneath doorframes. When the sisters painted over them, the drawings reappeared overnight, but in red. A child named Clara vanished in March. Her bed was found soaked through with iron, colored stains, and every door latch in the building had been torn off from the inside. After that, the sisters sealed the basement and nailed the doors shut. But the hymns never stopped. In 1921, a survey team from Frankfurt arrived to inspect the orphanage's foundation. They never filed their report. What survived a handful of photos discovered decades later shows something the sisters swore never existed. A door. Iron bolted from the outside. Across it, a warning carved in Latin. Non aperiatur usque finum. Do not open until the end. The workers reported hearing humming from behind it low, almost like breathing through water. They described a pressure, a heaviness in the air, like standing beside a thunderstorm. When one of them, a man named Harlan Dokes, tried to break the lock, the handle burned his palm. He was found the next morning in his hotel room, eyes open, lungs full of red clay. No one ever explained how. The orphanage closed that same year. The last entry in the sisters' journal reads simply, "We were told the parish was built upon holy ground, but holiness, I think, is only what hell leaves behind when it escapes." A government archivist named Samuel Dyer was sent to catalog properties slated for demolition after the war. He found the chest beneath what was once the church altar sealed with wax and animal sinew. Inside were letters, a rosary made of bone, and the final pages of Reverend Renshaw's diary. The ink was still wet, though the pages dated 1831. Renshaw's last entry read, "She is no woman, she is a gate. The flesh is only the lock." Dyer tried to deliver the materials to Frankfurt, but he never arrived. His car was found 12 miles from the site, headlights still on, doors locked from the inside. The chest was gone. Local police declared it an accident. But the photo taken by the first responder shows something chilling. Through the windshield, reflected in the glass, a tall silhouette standing in the field behind him. Locals say the bell still rings every September. Only once at midnight, no rope, no wind. Each year the sound grows fainter, but deeper, like something buried is calling from below the soil. When paranormal researchers visited in 1998, their recordings captured frequencies below human hearing. Spectrogram analysis revealed a pattern, not random noise, but language. A translation attempt yielded 2 words, "She waits." Some historians believe the bell itself was forged from the same metal as Althea's chains. Iron soaked with human blood, that's why it never rusts, even now. One researcher described touching it. It was warm, like skin. The Hartwell family owned the land long before the church was built. Their descendants vanished after the Civil War except for one branch that moved north. In 1936, a descendant named Eleanor Hartwell wrote a letter to the Kentucky Historical Society. She begged them to stop excavations near the old parish, claiming her bloodline was bound to the 13th. In the letter, she describes nightmares of a tall figure dragging chains through her hallway. Every morning, she woke to find red clay on her bedroom floor, and every night, she heard the bell, though she lived 3 states away. The letter ends abruptly with the words, "The sound is in my bones now. When it stops, I think I will too." Eleanor was found 3 days later. No signs of struggle, only a broken window and a single, enormous handprint pressed into the sill. 2 years after Dyer vanished, the U.S. Geological Survey reopened the site for study. They found the tunnels, dozens of them, all branching beneath the old parish. In one chamber, they discovered hundreds of rusted chains melted into the limestone. And in the center, a depression in the rock shaped like a human body 7 feet long. No bones, no remains, only residue traces of iron, calcium, and something unidentifiable. When the lead scientist, Dr. Halloran, touched the rock, his hand began to tremble uncontrollably. He later wrote, "It felt as though the stone was breathing, in rhythm with me." Funding for the dig was cut within the week. The chamber was resealed, and the official report classified as non-public, religious site hazardous. But locals remember what happened that night. The bell rang again, 13 times. When workers reopened the tunnels in 1950, they reported hearing what they called low sermons. Chants in a language no one recognized rising through the stone. At first they thought it was wind. Then one of them, a veteran named Mason, began repeating the sounds back without realizing it. Within days, he stopped eating, said he could hear her teaching. He described the voice as female but hollow, as if echoing through an empty chest. He vanished on the 6th night. They found his boots beside the pit. Inside one of them a fingernail, not his own. Authorities sealed the tunnels again, this time with concrete, but recordings from that week captured something they couldn't erase. 13 tones, each one perfectly aligned with the harmonic frequency of a human heartbeat. In 1984, a historical reconstruction team unearthed fragments of the original Parish bell. They wanted to rebuild it a monument to Kentucky's forgotten past. But when they melted the fragments for analysis, the lab's instruments failed. Voltage spikes, magnetic interference, even the clock stopped. The lead technician described the melted metal pulsing under the microscope as though alive. Within hours, the sample turned black, absorbing every trace of light. Researchers who touched it complained of vivid dreams. A tall figure standing in a doorway, whispering, "I kept it in. You let it out." The reconstruction was abandoned. The fragments were buried again under federal supervision. But one piece went missing. No one knows who took it. The man who forged Althea's chains was named Jonas Cray. His descendants still live in Kentucky, but his journals, discovered in 1976, reveal something terrifying. He wrote that while forging the chains, he used iron taken from an unholy vein near the riverbank. He said the ore itself bled when struck, that the sound of his hammer changed, not metal ringing, but something breathing back. After finishing the job, his apprentices began dying, their bodies twisted, eyes wide, lungs full of soot. Cray wrote that he could still hear her through the metal. Each strike was a word, each link a promise. When he finally tried to destroy the leftover ore, it wouldn't melt. He buried it under his forge and carved into the wall, "Do not wake the 13th." Every record of Althea calls her the 13th, but no one ever explains why, until now. Hidden among the Reverend's papers was a hymn written in her native tongue, a language still unidentified. When translated phonetically, the title reads, "To Keep the Door." Historians believe Althea wasn't chained to be punished, she was chained to contain something. The church's foundation wasn't built over her cell by accident. It was the cell, and the 13 rings of the bell, a ritual, each chime sealing one part of the gate. Until on the 13th, the seal broke. In 2001, a hiker found an iron hand protruding from the ground near the Parish site. It was not sculpture, it was bone turned to metal. Forensic tests failed, DNA unreadable. The hand weighed 22 pounds, too dense to be human, yet shaped perfectly. Before authorities could collect it, the hiker disappeared. The hand was gone, but the ground where it lay was warm to the touch, like something beneath it was moving. That same night, residents of Hartwell County reported hearing bells, not one, 13, each ring closer than the last. A patient named Evelyn Moore, descendant of the Hartwell line, was admitted after claiming the tall woman from the soil followed her home. Doctors dismissed it as delusion, but her body temperature measured a constant 92 degrees F. And every time she slept, the heart monitors in the ward began to sync 13 slow beats, then silence. During her final session, she said, "She isn't angry, she's tired. She's been holding the door for us, and we chained her for it." Evelyn died that night. In her throat, coroner reports found traces of iron dust. Her last words, caught on tape, "When she stands again, she'll make the world quiet." In 1952, before the site was finally condemned, a student filmmaker captured footage inside the church. The film was confiscated by authorities and presumed destroyed, but in 2019, a single reel surfaced in an estate sale in Ohio. It shows the altar collapsed, and behind it the shape of a woman, impossibly tall, swaying slowly. Her eyes glowing faintly like embers. The footage ends abruptly as the camera drops. Then, for 6 seconds, there's only static, and the sound of a chain dragging closer to the microphone. Experts who analyzed the reel reported nausea, migraines, and hearing loss. One technician described feeling a hand press against his back while watching. He was alone in the room. The last page of Reverend Renshaw's diary had been glued shut. When archivists carefully separated it in 2021, they discovered a single sentence, "Forgive us. We mistook the keeper for the kept." Beneath it, a drawing 13 circles forming a gate. In the center, A woman's face, eyes open, mouth sewn shut. The ink tested positive for hemoglobin, human. Locals say the ground near the old parish began to shift last spring, soil collapsing inward as if something beneath were breathing again. A construction team sent to stabilize the site reported hearing music under the dirt. When their equipment hit solid stone, the vibration stopped. Then, every bird within a mile fell silent. That night, across 3 counties, power went out, and at midnight precisely the bell rang. Once, not 13 this time, just one, the first ring. The story of Althea the 7-foot slave woman who broke her chains was never about vengeance. It was about duty. She was never the monster. She was the guardian, the 13th, the one who stayed chained so the rest of us could sleep. But the chains are gone now, and the ground beneath Hartwell breathes again. Some nights, travelers still hear the bell. One ring, far away, sometimes 2. They say if you listen long enough, you'll hear her voice between them whispering, "It's open."